Hello, welcome to Authentic You. I am SeaJay Leapshire. We are in Season 3, Episode 6. I am here with my co-host, Erika and Deborah Giles, and we have been discussing that I feel like I can write a book about things that everyone should know that nobody told me. And number one, for me, would be raising adult children is harder than raising small children. So everybody looks at you like when you have little babies, like, oh my gosh, it's so hard, blah, blah, blah. And I have adult children who I love and who are amazing, but they have their own thoughts, their own feelings. They go do their own things, and I cannot control them and have them safely in my home to know everything is okay. Or I don't agree with everything that they're doing. And it is way harder than I thought it would be.
I agree.
It's so true.
That I didn't know. I agree. That was going to be my thing for sure. Because I thought the goal in life is get them through high school, no sex, no drugs, who knows what else. So I thought we were pretty successful in that.
Yeah.
And then they left school, and I don't know if you know, but they become infinitely wise.
Yes, they know
and
everything.
all-knowing. And it's the most amazing thing ever.
Yes.
That doesn't feel like a gift, though, but it is.
It's not.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not.
No, I have never wanted to be a part of any support group thing until we hit that stage where
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
you have zero control. Where it made me miss, like literally, we have this Google photo thing in the kitchen, and the pictures run through of when they were young. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss those days.
I'm going to put them to bed. When's bedtime?
And their world is as big as our house.
Yes, it was wonderful.
And you can maybe
Wonderful.
smack them around a little bit in the good old days.
Or take
and
their
call it
electronics.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you are being a know-it-all. I've now taken away all electronics.
And
I could do that.
Yeah, everything was pretty quick conversations. And I realized we are running into trouble when we hit like high school, the later years, and now you're having a conversation with another adult, and nothing is quick.
Yes.
You got to go sit down on that bed. It's 30 minutes later.
Usually really late at night.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm like, I was not prepared.
And I don't have a good answer
Right.
for them. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes
Yes.
I'm like, I actually don't know.
I would just say I was pretty shocked when I realized I have to continue to grow as a parent of adult kids. I thought like, I could totally see why parents ditch the kids and go on a around the world cruise. Completely understand why. We haven't done the cruise. Well, I watch the Titanic, so I don't do cruises.
She won't do
So
cruises.
there's also that. But we haven't done a around the world trip because we're still busy parenting.
Yeah.
And I have to grow to remain a fine, okay parent.
Yeah, I think also with the digital age, knowing where they are and having sons, I think that's difficult too because I will text them, like, what are you doing? How's it going? Like, my sons went to camp this weekend and I got nothing. I got I
They're
gave
ridiculous.
full paragraphs of what we were doing and life and all that. And I got a, yep, nope, or nothing. And then it was like, I was too tired to text Mom. You're like, it was 4 days.
Yes.
You couldn't even say anything.
I just want to know you're alive.
Yes,
Yes.
that's it. Just give me something.
I will text my
anything.
son. I said to him, I said, could you just tell me like what you are doing each day? What I mean by that is, do you have to work? Will you be home for dinner? Are you sleeping in your bed?
Yeah.
Like those are like the 3 basics I need to know. And he's all, I think that you're asking way too much, Mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, you do? You
Fully.
honestly feel... And
Yeah,
he was
you're
like,
so intense. Why would you even ask all 3 of those questions?
yes. And he's like, I can't do that.
You have
I
the
was like,
effort,
you
the
can't-
effort to answer that.
You can't tell me if you have to work.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Okay, listen to this one. So I have my first kid got married a few months ago, and part of we are so grown up and independent now is that my daughter, the daughter got married, is that she stopped sharing her location with us and became part of his husband's family, and I think that's all
that's
cute
not
and
allowed.
awesome. And I'm trying, like, oh my gosh, that's
Wait,
wonderful.
his
no, not
family
his
see?
family, him and her.
Yeah. I was all, what? Those are
Yes,
fighting.
no. So, but listen to this. So these two went on honeymoon in another country, and all 4 parents, like none of us knew.
Yeah.
Did they make it?
No.
Did they take off? Did they land? Are they alive? Have they been kidnapped? We knew nothing. And then somewhere in the middle of honeymoon, we got one picture, and I'm like, oh my God.
Proof of life.
Proof of life, you made it, and because we're just trying to be adult here
Fully.
in America,
Yeah.
while they are off somewhere. So that's a whole different ballgame, guys.
Yes.
I can tell you that it really deepened our prayer life.
Yes.
We pray a lot more when you cannot. It's because it makes you feel a little powerful when you can see where they are. But now I never know where she is.
Rude.
And I just
And
Lord.
it's the access, like that we can find that out. Back in the day, we couldn't find that out. Like, I wish I knew where they were. That would be great. I wish, and you couldn't have that. This is like one button. Just turn on a button. I know where you are.
I
you don't
feel
have
like
to.
my parents didn't care.
No, my parents didn't
They
care
didn't
either.
care at all.
True.
I
I
know.
would. I'm like, I wonder how that will be to not care.
Oh.
Let's try that, to not care.
I can't.
No, when I
can't.
was 12 years old, my parents sent me to camp for 6 weeks, and they
6
went.
weeks?
They went to Australia.
Nope.
Remember, no cell phones, and could not call me. And so they called, I think, a month in on one of those like call things, and we sobbed on the phone. They're like, "Sorry, we just didn't we couldn't get a hold of you." And I still have wounding from that. But my mom was like, "You're fine. Like, you were at camp. It was great."
Okay, what camp do you go? I'm stuck on that.
It was a YWAM. It was a YWAM. I know. It was a YWAM summer of service.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like
just
I would
so
cry
you
so
know,
hard.
would never, ever send my children to anything for 6 weeks for me not to see them, even as adults.
Well, here's Deborah and sons. I agree. My son went to YWAM Kona, and then he went to the Himalayas for his mission trip. Do you think?
Yeah.
You
probably got nothing.
I just don't know. Is he in the mountains? Did he make it? He was there for his birthday. We had no clue. So it was reception and the fact that he is a boy.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, so I just didn't
Yeah.
know. Do I still have a son? I really don't know.
I would, sorry to change the subject, but also adding to my book, I would do bodily changes that nobody warned you about.
Yes.
Like our mothers did not prepare us.
No.
They didn't tell us jack
No.
squat. I'm
Nothing.
like, what? And my mom now will be like, oh yeah, that happened to me. I'm all, that would have been helpful to know.
Why don't they sit us down
Yes.
and rape us?
Or just share in the process.
Yeah.
Like, don't be surprised. This
Yeah.
is coming. Oh, thank you. Or, okay, when we are having to adjust to actually starting to take care of our parents.
Yeah.
Nobody talked to me about that one. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's just a lot that I am learning. Now, what you said that there's something.
Yeah, mine's a little lighter than yours.
Yes.
That is intense. That's very difficult. So a couple weeks ago, I am one of these that I get headaches if I have really strong perfume. So I don't really usually wear a lot of perfume, but I have kind of a perfume that I've worn for 20 years. And I was given my birthday this last year another perfume, a really nice, beautiful, expensive perfume. And so I sprayed it once, loved the smell. Was like, this is incredible. I love the smell. And Daniel loved the smell. So we're driving one day to church, and he rolls down his window. I'm like, what is going on? And he's like, I just have a headache from your perfume. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know. I was just, spraying it. So I was at Trader Joe's, and I was talking to the guy checking me out because, that's what we do. I mean, with the groceries. And
Some of us.
I was going to
I
say,
try not
she
to.
does not
Yes.
talk to people.
Okay,
so
I
much.
do. I've become my mom. I can feel it. And so I sit and I'm talking to him about my life because that's, you check up. And I was telling him this story, and he goes, well, was it expensive perfume? And I said, well, yeah, is this? And he goes, oh, the more expensive the perfume, the less you wear because it's really strong and condensed. I did not know this at all. So I put it online. I actually called my sister because we're both 47. I said, have you ever heard this? She said, I've never heard this. 47 years old. It's very hard to learn something new at 47. I put it online. You would have thought I was saying for the first time that I didn't know what the color blue was. People were like, everyone knows that. You learned that in junior high. That is like a 12-year-old knows that, right?
I did not know this.
You did not know
Wait,
that.
No, and didn't you say something like the Eau de Parfum is different than the.
Yes.
I can't say.
Oh no, I was inundated with a lot of
Guys,
new things.
Anna is laughing at me for the way I said that.
I don't even know what you're saying.
Ude.
I don't know. Unda parfum.
There's two different things.
Yes.
And one of them is more than the other. And I usually don't like one of them.
So I did not know that. I guess that was the case. So one is very strong.
Yes.
And I didn't. So I'm putting 6, 7 squirts on. I'm loving the smell. I'm walking out, just thinking like the more you have, the better, because I'm usually get headaches. I love this smell. It was great. I got one compliment from my husband. So I thought more the better.
Yeah.
And then he didn't tell me that he was getting headaches. He just rolled the window down. You're like, when they roll the window down, you're like, it's one of two things, right? Yeah. So you're like, is it a good smell or a bad smell?
Hey, what if he was just lying?
Right.
He's like, oh, your perfume's giving me a headache.
Right.
But really, it was something else.
It's true.
And you've gone on this whole rant thinking it was your
Fully.
perfume. And it was just him farting.
It's true. So you learn something new every day. So
Yes.
if you are listening and you already knew that, you can tell us. Everyone knows that. But
Yes.
I did
And
not
what would
know.
you put in a book?
Yeah.
Things that I have been surprised about. I mean, I could start from early motherhood, from childbirth.
Oh, yeah.
Like things that
Yes.
nobody told me.
Yes.
I could fill a book.
Fully.
I'm thinking of writing it. It's going to be wonderful.
Yes.
It could probably cover animal things too. It's
Yeah.
going to be really helpful. I mean, I'm pretty sure thousands, millions of people
Yeah.
just want to pick up my book of just wisdom that I'm dropping.
It's true.
Okay, obviously we don't think it'll be very profound. Well, today we have a very special guest. Her name is Tiina Fitzgerald. And number one, her name is spelled T-I-I-N-A, which I have a really hard time when I'm trying to text fast because my phone doesn't like that and corrects it to one I over and over again. But Tiina has been with us for a long time, been with the church for a long time. She helps with Authentic You Ministry. She does a lot of stuff all around. She's a creative designer. She's very eccentric with that stuff, which is very fun. So Tiina, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into your story?
Yeah, I'm married. I have 2 kids, a grown adult. I can very relate, 30-year-old, and then Hudson is 18. And I'm a designer originally from the Northwest, moved to the Bay Area for 3 years, and then have been at JC since about six months in, but we moved 2 years in and have been here ever since.
Yes, you drove to church how many hours to come?
Round trip, it was close to 5 hours.
That
so
is amazing.
it was-
She's truly invested in Jesus culture,
She
all
is.
right?
Yeah.
She put
She's
in the
better than
miles.
us.
Yeah, better than us. We're like, whoa, that's 15 minutes
Right.
away. What?
It's true.
What we did, we use you guys as an example often. There was somebody who was reaching out to find out where our church was, and they're like, man, I don't think I can do that. I live in El Dorado Hills, which for reference is like 4 miles away. It's like
know.
they actually only want the
funny.
church if it's next door to their
my
house. And so we were not the church for them because we were too far away. So
That's funny.
yeah, so I'm like, don't tell Tiina because she doesn't know that she drove far, according to this person. Anyway, so we have been talking about people's stories and how God showed up in the midst of, there's been tragedy, there's been just what life gave you, there's been going after God's dream for your life and hustling for it, but where he met them. So we just want to hear a little bit of your story because you have a very unique story and how God showed up.
Yes, it's been a journey, but beautiful.
Yes.
And I was born in Los Angeles, and then when I was very young, we moved back where my mother was from, little town called Sweet Home, Oregon. The actual name.
Sweet home.
That's
Yes.
cute.
And my grandparents had like a cattle farm, and really beautiful and idyllic in so many ways. But unfortunately, my mother had schizophrenia. The first couple years of my life, she was mostly normal, pretty nurturing, and then she had my sister when I was 4, and then things kind of got worse at that point. She was always the fun mom.
Okay.
Cousins and friends were like, "Oh, the fun mom." But then she would also, talk to the TV and had paranoia schizophrenia. So it was this, the government is watching, the TV. She would talk to the TV very like angry, like angry mumble, and was erratic. So, and my grandparents had tried to get custody of us back then in the 70s. Kids were always meant to stay with the parent unless it was extreme. So when I was 9 years old, I came home from school and people are in a house, and she was like fire selling everything, was loading up the car, saying we're moving. And I secretly had called my grandmother, who was, 40 minutes away. And she came, and then my mother trucked my grandma to go to the store to get something, threw us in the car, and then drove us to California. And then in Santa Cruz, she told us to get out and then proceeded to try to drive the car off a cliff and jumped out. So there's not a ton of my childhood that I have super intense memories of, but I do remember that. And then at that point, we went to live with my aunt, who had just had a baby, but was also unmarried, and life became very, very different.
Okay.
And there's a whole journey there of a beautiful home life in many ways, but just the trauma of growing up with this erratic behavior.
How old were you when you moved in with your aunt?
9. I think I had just turned 9, but I'm not sure. Somewhere in there.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then we soon moved down to where my grandparents were nearby, who were just tremendous support. And my grandpa was like stepped in so many ways, and grandma.
That's beautiful. So then you grow up, obviously that's a lot to work through. That's a lot to work through. And so what did life look like as you started to grow up?
So my grandparents were Church of God Seventh-day, very religious. Although they loved Jesus, I have so many memories of my grandma just singing at the top of her lungs with her not so fabulous voice, different hymns and whatnot. And I think I was in junior high, and I was like, I want to go to church, but not the one on Saturday. That was scary. So I started going all by myself, and I just remember being in worship and experiencing this just tangible presence of the Lord. Like, it was like that love, that is what I've longed for. And then my best friend in high school, her dad was a pastor, and there was just a really sweet experience with God through her. I knew I loved God and was a Christian, but didn't know the fullness. So went away to Oregon State for college and fell in love with a guy named Peter. And then my senior year, I got pregnant with our daughter, Mackenzie. I came home from college, and my aunt and my sisters were all radical, Spirit-filled Christians.
Oh, wow.
They were in Christian school, like healing. My aunt, who I often refer to as my mom, and then I say mother for my birth mom, I guess, she would read the Bible for hours and hours. And it was really just incredible. I walked into this different world, and it was like life changed radically from then. And then I moved to Portland with Mackenzie at 2 years old. I was deeply in love with Peter. We didn't get married. He was turning a pro golfer, and when I was pregnant, I got saved. So he was a Christian, but it was kind of different. So we were kind of working that out. And then when Mackenzie, right before she turned 2, his dad that I adored, Sven, they were a Swedish family, was flying a plane and suddenly crashed. And that was pretty crazy. And then they were from Chico, and I remember talking with Peter, like we were just weeping, and I think it was a couple weeks later, he said, I just have this feeling that I'm not going to live to 30. And I was like, well, that's very odd. I mean, he was a daredevil. He was skydiver, bungee jumper, extreme sports all the way through. And then 2 months later, he was snowboarding in Tahoe and hit a tree. And he was 6'5", so he must have been a big tree.
Yes.
And he died, passed away. So there I was with a little blonde hair, blue-eyed little daughter that was a spitting image of him. And I was like, okay, life looks different now.
Yeah. And at this point, you're saved, so you know Jesus.
Yes, yeah.
You do have a supportive family, but I'm sure there's still plenty of residue with life
Yes.
at this point. So you're raising your daughter on your own and all this fun stuff.
Thank you. I was living in Portland with Mackenzie and had found an incredible church and church family that really, truly became family in so many ways and helped walk me through a season of loss. But it was Mackenzie was 12 when I met my husband, Gabriel. So for the next 10 years, I was a single mom, and it was a season of hard things, but at the same time, like the Lord was always there. Mackenzie was the kid under the bleachers, staying up late. Like our church was in revival, true revival. It was like all the bodies across the floor, and just brought her to everything. Yes. And she was at the Christian school there.
So how old were you when Peter died?
24.
I just try to imagine. I mean, I have kids that age facing, the man I loved, who I had, as we know as women we do, made a life plan with. You know, like you had your future planned. Whether you're married or not, you were growing old with this man. You know, like you had a future with him. So that just got ripped out from under you. And now you've got this sweet little girl and just you. And even, I mean, I can just imagine, and I could be wrong with this, but like the stability of knowing people are going to be in your life, their belief just got reinforced. Like your mom abandoned you, you had to go to somebody else, and now the next person you thought you loved also left. So how did you walk that out emotionally and with the Lord?
You know, I think, how would anybody do that without Jesus? Like for me, it was a pivotal time of of like, I'm not a victim in this. I'm not alone. Like it was a crawling, crawling to the feet of Jesus, and just knowing like, okay, he is my rod and my staff. And there was just a like, okay, Lord, you have to be my husband. You have to be my father, you know, my parent. Like I need your nearness to show up in such a tangible way. It was a journey. I had community that that made all the difference and stepped in. And
that's so good.
You know, I was 2 hours away from my natural family. And so, of course, we saw them a lot, but at the same time, you can't do life
every
2
day
hours
life
away.
With them,
Yeah. So I just had really like best friends that were aunties and families that husband and wives that really were mentors and there for us.
Yeah.
So.
Tiina, knowing you for the last 10 years, first of all, our husbands, we don't really look alike, but people think they did. So we would get confused multiple times as being each other's twins. And but one of the things that when I hear your story and all that you've walked through, that I'm always amazed about is that you don't carry residue with it.
Yes.
You don't have a victim mentality. You've had so many things, even starting your life with struggle, then starting another season of your life and having pain and struggle. And you're in, it's not like life was just roses. It's been a seasons of you having to contend. But the beauty is, what I've noticed in you is that you have such an incredible relationship with the Lord. You hear God. You're incredibly prophetic. You just have this community and connection with the Lord and with people that I believe has been created because of what you've gone through. And there's no residue with that, which is wild. It's amazing to see what God can do in and through someone when they let the process happen and go through. Have you fought, obviously after losing him and your mom, have you fought seasons of fear that things are going to fall apart again, or the rug's going to be pulled up underneath you again because you've had, times when that's happened in your past? Have you battled that at all?
Yeah, I think fear has tried to creep in different forms. When Mackenzie was younger, I just remember this season of like having to take every thought captive. And it was a mandate from the Lord, like you will renew your mind, where, I just sit in grief and thoughts would come. And sometimes all I could do was just utter, like, I praise you, Jesus. I love you, Lord. Like, it was a fork in the road where you're like, okay, am I going to call myself victim? Or am I what the Lord says I am? Like, if I don't look at myself the way the Lord does, then I'm giving room for the enemy. And I've seen people who it's almost like an identity that comes over them of victimhood, and they wear it like a warm blanket, like there's comfort in this is my story and this is who I am. But there is a, breaking off of the grave clothes, a throwing off, like this is not who the Lord calls me. Just the verse of casting off lies and praising him and through all things was the thing through the earlier season. And then it was, stepping into something different. So that was a pivotal point in a hard season.
I was pretty surprised when I heard your story because I had known you for years. And you're like a pretty bubbly person and a pretty happy person, cute. You always like, what's Tiina up to now? Because you're coming up with like the best ideas. We laugh because you've done many conferences and the stuff that you come up with out of like basic things. What was that one conference that you did things with like concrete? It was like you decorated with like blobs of concrete and you made it look good. We were like, I was like, who does this? Like, who takes concrete? If I made blobs of concrete, they would look like blobs of concrete. Like, it'd be very clear. Anyway, so when I heard your story, I was like, exactly what you're saying. Like, I would never have known. And I think what so moved me about it is, I think for most of us at our age, I mean, we're very young.
Right.
But, we're very, very young. But we've all experienced hard things, But there are certain things that not everybody has experienced. And when you shared yours, I was all, oh, okay, this isn't just a normal, like, yeah, we've walked the hills and valleys of life. But no, you experienced true loss, as a kid, it is just very deep. And so for you to be where you are, the Lord met you, and the grace of the Lord to meet you in the midst of everything that the enemy could have spoken to and stolen from who you are as a small child, and to see you as this healthy mom who loves her kids. I mean, I think there's quite a few other parents that are bidding for Hudson as their future son-in-law. So you've done just such a phenomenal job. And so to hear your story of where you came from, you just know the redemption of God and the healing power of God, and that you didn't just do it by pulling up your bootstraps. I mean, yes, there's a lot of that in the midst of partnering with God. So I'm just so moved by who you are.
Yeah, you really do almost bring beauty from ashes. When you said that with the concrete, I think about times when your creativity, it's amazing to watch because you take simple things and you bring so much creativity from it. And who you are, the essence of who you are all about community. You're all about connecting with women, families, getting in there. You are relentless about seeking community and being, you don't let people get away with keeping walls up or keeping doors shut. You are very much into that. And tell me a little bit about why that's important to you. Like why is you diving into community so important?
Because I think I know the seasons of loneliness with what I've walked through, like that the Lord came and he met me and he grabbed me from the places and he set me in family. His family, and it became everything. And I just think it's so easy for people to say like, oh, I'm good, I'm this, I'm that. But, none of us are promised an easy life. Like life is hard. And without connection, those areas that might be lurking in the shadows or under the influence of a lie, it's easy for them to remain. So it's pulling those places up and out and like, no, stand in the light of the sun. Like he will bring you to a place of joy. And I love people and I love connection and it's just like community is just, it is life and death in so many ways, but it's also joy and laughter and everything in between.
Yeah.
So,
So good. So good. I have a random favorite Tiina memory. Actually, I have two that I've heard of. That being with Dana, because Dana plans a lot of the church events, and she'll pull Tiina in. And twice now I've been with Dana where she's like, I have to go. Tiina has talked to somebody at this shopping center, and they are allowing her to cut down all the white trees or what were those, like pampas grass? All this pampas grass. And they're out there, her and Dana, cutting down white trees and ramming them into Dana's van. In just true Tiina fashion, she got people to give them all of her trees. I'm like, who else does that?
It's so true.
Erika, you've never called me to
Jesus.
cut down white trees.
No, I'm scared of going to jail. Tiina, I'm sitting here thinking, I know that we didn't plan to focus on loss, but I mean, you are familiar with loss in your life. But what I'm thinking of is, how do you, you've experienced deep loss and you have a daughter that you are your past is not your past, it's your present as well, because you still have your daughter, but you're also married and your life is a beautiful picture of God's redemptive love. How do you, here's where I'm going. I think sometimes in the kingdom or in church, we often talk about, does healing look like I don't feel anything, think anything more of the previous, what I got healing from? Is it just gone? And is success and healing look like there's nothing? It's just black, no thoughts, no feelings. How do you walk out honoring the father of your daughter, and you have your daughter who is a reminder of someone that you deeply, deeply love, and yet God gave you another husband and a son, and how do you walk this line of, it's beauty on both sides of the line, but it's not gone. It's not something that you can sweep under the rug. I went through a season of healing and I'm great now and it's in the past, because it's not. It's here, yet you're walking this life with a family that you deeply, deeply love and it loves. It doesn't make sense what I'm asking. How do we? Yeah. Because you are walking through something that I have not walked through that. So there's a depth of understanding of a part of the heart of God that you have that I don't. And it doesn't mean I'm worse or you're better. It's just, this is life, and you've walked, like SeaJay has walked through a ton of loss too. And I'm deeply aware that there is a depth and a dimension there that life has brought to you guys, and you see something in the loss and the heartache. You see something, part of God that I haven't yet necessarily experienced because I have not been there, And so how do you walk this life and honor the past today as you're walking with what God has given you today?
Yeah. I mean, there's been seasons of mourning and being like standing in those places with your full heart, not holding back like, oh, I have to like secure this little place of my heart and keep it safe. But, wholly presenting it to the Lord. And so with walking through seasons and being fully present in those, I think those things are part of what made me who I am. So I just stand in gratitude for that. It made me reach for the hem of his garment with all my might, where I don't, if life were maybe different, I don't know if that desperation would have been there. With Peter, I still see his mom and his sister and walk in relationship with them and love them dearly and honor them. Sometimes waves of the past come, and I'm just like, okay, Lord, this is yours. What do you want me to know? What do you want me to do? And then allow myself to be fully grateful and joyful for my husband, for my son and daughter, and
absolutely.
Be present.
When you said life is hard, I agree, but I know God is good, and you see His goodness. I think almost greater when you've walked through the hard, like because it's easy to say God is good when you haven't experienced real hard and pain, but when you have and you truly see His goodness meet you in the midst of that, it's a whole different level of knowing how He sees you and His goodness in your life.
Walking through the valley, the shadow, and know that His rod and staff comfort you. Like going through different times, I get the picture of walking through the valley and just clinging to the Lord and just having this picture of Jesus saying, no, I'm going to walk with you. And we're not always going to be here, and I think just that when you've gone through stuff, you just say, this is not my identity. Like this is not like, woe is me in any way, but in all hard things, there's an opportunity and to choose joy. And I remember hearing somewhere in my 20s, like just this little tidbit of like, oh, if you're a woman and you're born in the United States, then you're in the top 1% of privileged women in the world.
Wow.
Like we are so free. Like we have so much to be grateful. So there's in that I was like, oh, a posture of, oh my goodness. Like, yes. This is just a place of, being grateful at the little things. We're free.
Yeah,
it was just a big thing.
No, so good. So good. Well, thank you so much, Tiina, for sharing your story. You're an inspiration, and you're so fun. You are so fun. I mean, you never know what Tiina's going to do. And when Tiina touches something, when she helps a lot with the look and feel of Authentic You, our meetings, and when she does it, people are always like, wow. And I'm like, yes, I am amazing, aren't I? I take all the credit. No, I don't. I make sure everyone knows it's Tiina. Let's not be silly. It was not me. But you are a gifted woman, and it's so fun to see the gift of God be used in you. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Authentic You podcast. Be sure to follow us on socials, and like anything else, Jesus Culture Podcast Network is easy to find, and we'd love to hear what God's doing in your lives or what your thoughts are on what we talked about today. So comment or message us. Share today's episode with a friend, and if you haven't already, go back and binge seasons 1 and 2. You can find us on jesusculture.com or anywhere where you listen to podcasts.